But let's go ahead and get started. So we're on the Civil Rights Movement test review. Remember I said your test is next time I see you guys on Tuesday. There's about 20 questions. And the review is very, very similar to the test. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Number one, what was the goal of the protest depicted on this map? All right, so you have freedom rides. Remember, freedom rides were demonstrations by college kids of the SNCC, Student of Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, by them, and they would hop on a bus. Usually they were in the north and they were black and white kids. They would hop in the bus. They would all sit in the front because there wasn't segregation. But by this time, segregation was already outlawed, even on buses. Then they would take rides through the South on purpose where there was still segregation in transportation. And once they got into the South, you know, the bus drivers would turn to the African-American kids on the bus and tell them that they needed to move to the back of the bus because that's the way it is. But then they would tell the bus driver, no, I don't have to move to the back because segregation is illegal. So it's my right to sit in the front. And the bus driver would have to be okay with it because it's true. You know, there was a clash between the federal government and states, but Southern states, they were very hesitant to follow anything that the federal government would rule on, such as segregation, discrimination, getting rid of that. The states will still do whatever they wanted until they got in trouble. So that was the goal. You know, the kids were just trying to integrate the bus system. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put down the way it is on the test, all right, to enforce the Supreme Court's ruling that made discrimination, that's going to be totally misspelled, that made discrimination / segregation illegal in international transportation. I know that one's kind of long, but like I said, it's very similar to the test. Number two, during Reconstruction, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were ratified. That means they were passed. Which issue did these amendments address? What was the issue at the time that made it necessary to pass these amendments? All right, so the 13th Amendment freed the slaves. The 14th Amendment gave them citizenship, meaning because they were born here, they deserve citizenship, right? And the 15th Amendment gave them the right to vote. Only men, because no women could vote. So what's the issue here? Rights for former slaves. They're trying to increase rights for former slaves. Number three, in the late 1800s, what was the Supreme Court's decision in Plessy versus Ferguson? All right, so the Supreme Court's decision, it legalized segregation with the separate but equal clause. So, you know, if you're not familiar with this court case, but you know it has to do with discrimination or segregation, then just know it's the 1800s. All right, so back in the day, they did legalize it and say that it's allowed, but you know, as long as they're equal, you know, as long as you're treating the groups equal. Of course, it was never equal, and it took 58 years for someone to challenge it and show the government that it's not equal. All right, next question, number 4. Are you guys good with number 2? Claudia, do you need more time? Okay. Number 4, what was the role of the United Farm Workers? What was the role of the United Farm Workers in promoting civil rights? All right, so we only talked about one union, United Farm Workers Union, that was created by Cesar Chavez, right? So what was the role of that? What was the point, right? So to increase pay and protest better working conditions for farm/migrant workers. To increase pay and protest better working conditions for farm/migrant workers. Now, hold on, let me change protest to demand, to increase pay and demand, because that doesn't sound right. To increase pay and demand better working conditions. All right, there we go. All right, let's move on to number 5. What is number 5? Is it a picture? Now, if you need me to go back because I'm going too fast, I can do that at the very end because, like I said, this is a video. And I kind of want to go fast. And then once I'm done with the video, I'll go back to the front or to the beginning. Number 5, what role did Arkansas Governor Orval Faubus play in the Little Rock crisis? What role? He was the racist governor that didn't want to let the 9 African-American kids into the school, right? So he like sent the National Guard to keep them from going to the school. But by then, segregation was already illegal. Like the schools had to integrate. He just didn't want to go along with it. So he challenged the federal government's authority to desegregate schools after the Brown decision. And it's just like that in the picture, against racial integration of all schools within the Little Rock School District. All right. Now we have, all right, so we have a mural, and I honestly thought this was San Antonio, because in San Antonio by the Pearl, there's a bridge, and there's a bunch of pillars like that, and each pillar is a different mural, and it's so unique, it's so beautiful, honestly. So, but anyways, I guess, yeah, California has the same thing. Historical Park in San Diego, California. All right, so we already know these murals are based off of Mexican American culture. So what is the significance of this 1978 mural? What is the importance? All right, so it's an example of Mexican American pride during the Chicano movement. Like so dyslexic here. So like I said, I can go back in the very end. Just be patient. I'm sorry. I have a lot of others that need me to go back. But I just want to get through the whole thing. And then I'm going to go back to the top or whichever question you need. Number 7, what was the direct result of the Voting Rights Act of 1965? All right, so that's the one that outlawed literacy tests, having to take a literacy test to be, something that tests if you can read and write in order to vote. I mean, that's pretty messed up, right? So what's the direct result? So that gets rid of the literacy test. So now it increases participation, right? So it increased voting participation for minority groups. Now more people can vote. Makes sense. Okay, so we have an excerpt. You guys are going to get a lot of excerpts on your state exam. I'm not even lying. I'm not even exaggerating. So the idea is read the first sentence and the last sentence. It's like a book. You read the introduction, you read the conclusion, it tells you what the book's about. Everything in between is details. So that's the thing. I mean, sometimes we don't even need excerpts. They don't always help. They don't really give us many clues. Sometimes you just got to look at the question and just, think about what you know, and then not even rely on the excerpt. So the excerpt above is from a speech on the problems of migrant farm workers. So it's already telling you, this is a speech about the problems that farmers are facing. Which leader proposed unionization as the answer of these workers? All right, so we really don't need the excerpt because it's telling us what it's about and it's saying which leader. It's not going to tell you the leader in the excerpt. I mean, you can kind of skim through it and there's no name of a leader. So which leader did we just talk about? Did we just learn about wanted to fight for the rights of farm workers? You guys should know the answer. Cesar Chavez. All right, we have a picture of Rosa Parks. We know what she's known for. The refusal of Rosa Parks to move her seat on a bus led, what did it lead to? Led to the Montgomery, of course that was Montgomery, which is in Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama bus boycott that lasted over a year and sparked the civil rights movement. After that, a lot of places started to undergo boycotts. A lot of other cities were like, well, we're going to go ahead and boycott our bus transportation. Other states were doing it. So that's what it did. Of course, it was set up. It was intentionally done on purpose. She was part of the NAACP and they talked about that. Like, let's do this. Refuse to move from your seat. Get on a bus, refuse to move from your seat, and we're going to go ahead and protest the buses until they integrate. Okay, next question. So we have sit-ins at Woolworth's lunch counter. That was by college kids, by SNCC. Freedom rides, also by college kids. And then we have 250,000 participants in the March on Washington, which was led by Dr. King. What was the main result of the events referred to in these headlines? What was the result? All this protesting and everything, it's all leading up to the end of discrimination, right? So what was the result? Discrimination was deemed illegal with the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That's what they all wanted, the Civil Rights Act. All right, we have Dr. King, and it looks like he is demonstrating a march with a bunch of others. Which method for achieving civil rights is most associated with Martin Luther King Jr.? Which method? All right, so civil disobedience. Oh my goodness. Which put on their non-violent peaceful non-violent protests. Number 12, which Supreme Court case involved an African-American applicant to the University of Texas Law School who was initially denied admission due to racial discrimination? I don't know if you guys knew that, but UT used to be pretty bad. Like, only whites were allowed to go there. They wouldn't even allow Mexican Americans. So there were a lot of lawsuits against UT. So the Supreme Court case, I know we haven't learned any court cases yet because there is going to be a day where I'm going to teach you like 10 court cases. But the thing is, and you will get court cases on the STAR, you got to look at the answer choice. Like sometimes the answer choices make it pretty obvious. You might know a couple of the answer choices, so use process of elimination. So, and that's how it is going to be with this test as well. So that is, the court case is Sweet versus Painter. That's the name of it. What's good is that you guys already know Plessy versus Ferguson, Brown versus the Board of Education, Korematsu versus the United States. That's from World War II with the Japanese American. So you're learning them. You'll learn them all soon, hopefully. Number 13, what was Dr. King attempting to explain in this excerpt? All right, so it says letter from Birmingham jail. This is when he got arrested after one march. And he's frustrated, right? He's been arrested like 30 times. So he's just frustrated and he writes a letter and it gets published. And he's venting. Let's read the first and last sentence. We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. He's saying we demand it. We're not gonna wait anymore. We want it now. We need it now. We must come to see with one of our distinguished jurists that justice too long delayed is justice denied. So what is Dr. King attempting to explain in this excerpt? Guys, I'm going to give you the word by word answer. Why racial segregation and discrimination should be ended immediately. Okay. Number 14. What was the immediate impact of this order, this executive order, which that's by the president? Let's see the impact. It is hereby, and you know, you can kind of tell, Harry Truman, executive order, all right, right after World War II. It is hereby declared to be the policy of the president that there shall be equality of treatment and opportunity for all persons in the armed forces, which is the military, without regard to race, color, religion, or national origin. All right, so the impact, it made segregation in the armed forces illegal. In other words, it integrated the military. And you already know the opposite of segregation is desegregation. All right. Sometimes the wording might be different, but you can figure it out. Okay, so we have, look at the picture. High Court bans segregation in public schools. What's the High Court? The Supreme Court. What idea relating to public education was overturned by the Supreme Court's decision in Brown versus Board of Education? What did that court case do? It overturned the separate but equal clause, right? Separate but equal. That's what got overturned. Segregation, right? Oh, whoops, sorry, I went really fast. Okay, next question. The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. How did Betty Friedan's book, The Feminine Mystique, affect the lives of everyday Americans? Mainly women, right? Because this is the feminist movement. You'll get questions about women, especially with recent events, you know. Everything's being questioned, the rights of everyone. She inspired women to challenge traditional gender roles. I can't type in these nails. Of the 1950s and 60s. She inspired women. She was encouraging women. She's like, why do we need to be housewives only? Like, why do we need to get married young right away? It's not okay to date. Like, we just need to find someone right away, have kids, stay at home, be housewives, do the laundry and the dishes and all this, and not work while men work and they come home and they don't do anything. Like, why should it be like that? That's not right. What if we want to work? What if we want to work a male's job? We want equal pay. We want to be able to do our own thing. We want to be able to divorce our husband if they're cheaters, right? Like, why is that frowned upon, right? Only the men can cheat, but not the women. Sorry, I'm going into details about things that are like controversial. But those are the topics that were brought up. Okay, number 17. During the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Panther Party's tactics differed from those of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. because the Black Panthers called for, what did they call for? You can look, I mean, look at them. What does it look like they support? They're different from Dr. Martin Luther King. So to defend themselves, I'm gonna put, all right, to defend themselves in, I don't know, any means necessary. And then I'm gonna put right here, use armed resistance. They're like, hey, you need to fight back, fight back. And Dr. Martin Luther King's like, don't fight back. They're complete opposites. Number 18, we're almost done. A student learning about US history is instructed to write a paper about W.B. Du Bois and race relations in the United States. Which of the following facts would most be relevant to the student's assignment? So obviously there's a multiple choice question, but you don't have the multiple choices. That's why it says which of the following. But anyways, W.B. Du Bois, I put a picture of him, and here is the organization that he was co-founder of, the NAACP, the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People. So it was a legal organization. So we're going to put right here, what is something, if you had to write a paper, what would you, about him, what would you write about? Du Bois founded the NAACP to fight discrimination / segregation legally. So yeah, it's an organization of attorneys that will fight for your rights. Still around today. All right, next question. Which civil rights organization sought to overturn the conditions shown in the picture above? So you have a picture of an African American. It looks like he's drinking from a water dispenser. It's not a water fountain, but something that dispenses water. But it looks, you can see right here, there's signs like a white, section and colored. So which civil rights organizations wanted to get rid of segregation, of those conditions? All right, so kind of think about it. That's pretty easy. We just mentioned one right now, the NAACP, and then organizations is plural, so let's put one more on there. And SNCC, which is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the college kids that did the sit-ins and freedom rides. All right, number 20, which organizations complete the chart above? So you have descriptions of different civil rights organizations, and then you have to tell me the names. Number 1, members armed themselves and were willing to take necessary means to protect their homes and families. Can you guys know it? Yes, good. Black Panther Party. Have any of you guys seen the movie Forrest Gump? You know that one scene in there where he like shows up to the Black Panther Party gathering? He punches a guy because I guess the guy's like, I don't know, harassing the girl he's in love with, and then he leaves and he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mess up your party, your Black Panther Party. Like he doesn't realize it's a political party, but he says party. Okay, number 20. I think we're done. We are. No. Number 2. Leaders enforced the use of nonviolence among those engaging in sit-ins and other protests. All right, so which group was known for the sit-ins and all that other stuff? Sit-ins and freedom rides. They were college kids. Anybody in this class? That's one of the examples, but the name of the group. I just said it right now. It's with an S. Well, I gave you the abbreviations. All right, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. All right, and then number 3, leaders worked with existing laws and within the court system to increase the rights of African Americans. Oh, that's easy. The organization that fights for African Americans legally, Du Bois. Founded it. It's on your review. Yes. NAACP. All right, we are done. Thank you for sticking by. Your test is Tuesday. I'll see you guys later.